Ouais. Say hi, Cinnamon. Say hi. Welcome to the 201st video on my channel where I'm building my own digital assistant named Shane, like Jarvis from the Iron Man movies and comics. I just finished my 200th video where I kind of walk through the status of where I am in building my own digital assistant. So please make sure you've seen that by clicking here. And also be sure to subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment on what's your favorite Dividend stock. Because in this video, this will be part 1 of me building my own dividend tracker. So this video is part 1 of me building my own dividend tracker that does not require me to have access to my Fidelity account. So the OG, the original library that you'll see in a lot of Python videos is called yahoo-finance or yfinance. And it's just been causing me and a bunch of people problems. So in today's video, I'll use a different library called yahoo-fin or yahoo-fin library. Alright, so now let's go to the code. So kind of bottom line, we'll be basically just doing two things. First is we'll be using this get quote data and get quote table. So the first thing you do if you're in PyCharm, you can go to File, Settings, your Python interpreter, and then click the plus button, and then you can type in Yahoo Fin right here, not the API, just Yahoo Fin. And this is just a different wrapper to use the Yahoo Finance since I've been having trouble with the original yfinance. Alright, and so once that's done, you can from yahoo_fin.stock_info import asterisk, which means import all of the methods. And we'll get into all this later. But I'm just going to show you the simple minimum viable product that you can use. So you can either pass it directly or create a variable called symbol equals. And we're going to use prudential, PRU. And then data equals get underscore quote underscore data symbol. Then you pass it the symbol. Then we're going to print the data so you can see all the different options you have. And then the current price equals data. And then you can look for regular market price. And then we're going to print that out. So let's run this real quick. Alright, and so you have a bunch of options here that you get through this function right here. And the one we'll be using, I'm not going to go through all of them, is this regular market price, which you see here that we printed, 80.16, which I'm assuming since it's almost 6 o'clock that it closed at that price. Alright, so you can go through all of these right here and find out what you want to use for your program. But we're just going to use this regular market price. So for the next one that we're going to do is very similar. Is we're going to use a different method called get quote table. So this was get quote data. So table data equals get quote table. And this time I'll pass it directly, which you don't have to. Then we're going to print the table data so you can see all the things like we did up here. Now the dividend yield will be the table data forward dividend plus the yield. That's what it's called. That's the key. Then I just want the annual dividend, so we have to split this because it passes you a string, which is weird to me. And then I just want the forward dividend, which is the annual dividend. And then we're going to print the string of that. So let's check that out. Alright, so now we have a bunch of new information that we didn't have on the last one. and you could just see a bunch of date, the earnings date, ex-dividend date, which we'll use. And then here we go, the forward dividend and yield. Now this is not a recommendation for the stock, by the way. And then I just wanted the, let's go back, the dividend right here. So we split it between these two right here and here. And now we just have this right here, which is what I want. So with those two, you can kind of do what you want from there, right? I would appreciate it if you watch the whole video, but if not, just take those two and build your own program. So the next thing we're going to do is run a real program, kind of something a lot more useful. So first we're going to, don't worry about this time and date time, we'll do that later. So from yahoo-fin, we already have that imported. We're going to need pandas as well, so import pandas as PD. And then you'll have to pip install this using the file settings again if you don't already have it installed. Alright, we're going to skip this for now because we kind of already went through this, and I'm going to go down to this, the beginning, if you will, of the code. So the first thing we need is that I'm going to use is an Excel sheet that has the amount of shares that I've held. Because again, I don't want a program that you can download on your iPhone that has access to all of your banks. That's not something I'm interested in. I want to build my own app. So unfortunately that means that it's not going to be all automated, and I'm okay with that. So here we go. We have this Excel sheet called Income Tracker. And then we have a column called symbol, and in here I have a bunch of stock symbols. And I also have mutual funds as well, so I can show you how that works. These are not recommendations, and not all of these are stock paying dividends, so I can show you how that's handled as well. I'm just going to say that we have one share for every stock, just for simplicity. In my real tracker, this one, I have all the amounts. But I don't, I would love to be transparent with my viewers, but I have certain friends and family that I just can't share my personal details with. So let's just say one amount, right? We have one share of Apple, one share of Lumen Technologies, one share of Prudential, etc. All right? So you don't need this open. Right, so data frame or DF equals pandas pd.readExcel. You pass it the Excel sheet. If it's a brand new Excel sheet, then it's probably XLSX, but mine is just XLS. If you copy and paste a path, usually it copies with forward slashes. So go ahead and delete each one and put a backslash like I have here. And then if you have multiple sheets, you can do sheet name equals and then whatever the sheet name is, the worksheet. If you have no worksheet, it'll default to the very first worksheet in your file. Now we're going to iterate through each of those rows. So for index, comma, and row in data frame df.iter_rows, call it. And that is how you go through each row of a pandas data frame. So the first one is going to be our symbol equals row symbol, right? Let me open this back up so you can see. So the first row, the symbol is this, Apple, right? And then we're going to do a try and accept, so I can show you how that works. And then we're going to do try, first get the share count, right? And so in the row amount, so now we're here, right? So share count is 1. Share count equals float, right? I want to make a float. And in real stocks, since I do automatic reinvesting, I have 32.65 shares, right? So we need to make it a float and not an integer. And then we're going to do data equals get quote data and pass it the symbol. So for the first iteration, it's going to be Apple. Then we're going to get the current price of it. So that's the regular market price, the current value. Then we're going to pass it this thing called round, right? So that way we just have two decimal points. Then we're going to do share count times the current price. And I made that a float too, so you can do, because this is a string right here, right? So we're going to make it a float so we can do math on it. We're going to round it 2 decimal places. And we're going to do df at. And this is how you add a new column into the data frame. Now note, this does not change our Excel, right? This is our source data. I don't want to make changes to this. So this is going to add it to our data frame, which we can use throughout our program. And we're going to pass it this current value, which will be the share count, which in our case is 1, times the current price, and then it's going to enter that value. Next, well, let's go down to the first except. So the next, we need to do an index error. And what this does is if it cannot find that stock, it's just going to pass and move on to the next one. So if this is your first time running it, like I did to prepare for this video, you can say there is an error at symbol something like this. And then when it prints the data frame, which I'll show you in a little bit, then you can see which one is giving you an error. So maybe you just put in, instead of Cisco, you put in CCO, and you get an index error, and now you can see that, right? So now you can fix it in your Excel sheet. So next is going to come to this try, which is the annual dividend equals get dividends, pass it the symbol. So now we're going to go up to what we passed up here to the get dividend. And this is the same thing that I just showed you. So now we're going to use get quote table, pass it the symbol, right? So we're still on the first row, which is Apple. It's going to get the forward dividend in yield, just like I showed you in the beginning. Then it's going to split that string. So you have the forward dividend in one list and the yield in the next. And I just want the forward dividend. And so it'll be in the 0th index, or the first place. And it will be a string. And we want to return a float of that, right? So come back down here in our try. So now in our annual dividend, we have the annual dividend amount. Then we're going to, again, add a new column to the data frame, not to our Excel sheet, right? This isn't going to change this Excel sheet. Then we're going to add the annual dividend times the share count. So in our case, it will be 1 times the annual dividends. Now in a future video, I'm going to want to know the quarterly dividend. And so I will need to divide this by 4, assuming it pays quarterly. So, but in this case, we're just taking the annual dividend amount and timesing it by the share count. Now, what happens, right? So we're still on Apple, and it's going to keep doing this. So first, it's going to give us the share price. Then it's going to give us the annual dividend. And then what happens if it gets a mutual fund? The mutual fund doesn't show up yet in the dividends. I don't have a current solution yet, and I will prior to the next video. But you will get an error on this. You will get another key, or you will get a key error, right? Because it cannot find this forward dividend in yield. So we're going to accept that. And what you can do is do the same thing and print getting a key error on symbol like that, and you will see which symbols are giving you a key error. In my case, it's these ones right here. FCTFX, which is a Fidelity Mutual Fund, FSKAX, which is also a Fidelity Mutual Fund, and FXAIX, which is also a mutual fund. All right. Now, what if it finds the stock, right, but it doesn't have a dividend? It's going to pass you an NA and mess up your loop. So same thing as before. Print getting a value error at symbol. So in my case, This is a gold ETF, GLD. And this is Coinbase, the stock. They don't have dividends. Lumen Technologies has suspended its dividend temporarily. That will also pass in NA. So, but instead we just pass. On all of these, we just pass. Now, I know mine works because I've tested it prior to making this video. So we won't get any of these errors. But even if we did, it would just pass on to the next one. And you would get an NAN in any of these that don't work, because Pandas does well in handling those errors. So now we can use a function in Pandas called sum. So the total current value of this hypothetical account will be total current value equals data frame. Then it's going to take the current value, which doesn't exist in our Excel, right? It's just in our value, in our data frame. And then it's going to sum it up. Then it's going to take the total annual dividends. We're going to round it 2 places. And the annual dividend column will be added up. So for this case, I'm going to print you the data frame in its entirety. And then we're going to show the total portfolio value. And then the total estimated annual dividends. So let's check that out now. All right, so let's look at the whole data frame. So again, I'll go to my Excel sheet. You see how nothing has been updated here. And now we can see our data frame has the symbol, the amount, which is all just ones, the current value, and then the annual dividend. So in Apple's case, I have 1 share. So the value is $152.99. The annual dividend is 92 cents. See, it's rounded to the second place. Ooh, this one is not. Anyways. So we get down to this coin, and you see NAN, which is not a number. And that means coin does not have a dividend. Now, FCTFX, FSKX, these do have dividends, but this yahoo-fin does not have a method to get those. Gold, the GLD ETF I was talking about, also doesn't have a dividend. Lumen Technologies, they recently suspended their dividend. And then the rest have dividends. So my total estimated portfolio value is $1,388.44. So I need to round this as well using the round function. Let's do that together so you can see how it's done. So you can round a number, right? And you'll need 2 parentheses there. You'll need another parenthesis, and then 2 if you want 2 decimal places. And then now that will be 44 cents. And then the total estimated annual dividends is $38. Now what we could have done also is calculate our yield by doing 38 into 1380. And we can do that using Python as well. We could use data frame, same thing as this. So in our case, we would have a 2.8% yield, which is not very good, to be honest. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. My next plan is to fix the mutual funds, of course. And then after I get the mutual funds to work, one of my goals is to put it into maybe a Matplotlib or Plotly dashboard, so we can just pull up the information ourselves and we have a nice little graph. Another thing I want to do is plot how much per month we'll be making, and then find ways to maybe automate a way to update it as well, because each time you get a dividend in, like, let's say in March, Prudential should be paying out tomorrow, I believe. I will have a new share count, right? Because I automatically reinvest dividends. And so again, you could just pay an app to do this, but you don't know where that app servers are. You don't know what they're doing with that information. And with my tinfoil hat on, I can tell you they're selling it to third-party people. No matter what you signed, it doesn't matter. They can aggregate the data into what's called metadata and sell it as much as they want, as long as it's not identified to you. So if you're okay with that. And then some of those are expensive. So if you're first starting out on your dividend investing and you're paying $9.99 a month or $79 a year or something like that, for some people that's your total dividend income. And I can't explain that. And so this is a good alternative to do it yourself. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to watch the future parts of this series. And thanks for watching. Goodbye, world.